Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Motivation Monday by me, Davina at Indigo Sky Holistic. So today's little motivation might seem a little bit weird, and you might be thinking, it's not very motivating, that's a bit sad. But I'm going to explain, I'm going to share why. Because obviously I'm a holistic therapist and I'm here to support the body, the mind, the emotions and the spirit. And the reason why I feel like this deserves some special consideration, crying, tears, is because there's lots of things about tears that we don't know. So we know they're there to lubricate our eyes, or hope, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but that's one of the general purposes of tears, is to lubricate your eyes. They otherwise it would feel pretty scratchy, and it does. If you've had dry eyes, you know it can feel really scratchy every time you blink. But very, very probably not known in fact about tears is that when you cry tears, emotional tears, they actually have a different chemical composition than our tears that are there as standard all day, every day. And that's why I want to talk to you about shedding some tears. So oftentimes we store and suppress our emotions because it's inconvenient to show them at the time where we're feeling them, or because we've grown up with stories like don't cry, boys don't cry, girls don't cry like a baby, all of those things that we might have been projected on us excuse me, when we were little. And that has this effect of us internalising our feelings and holding them in, storing them in our belly. That's where we store most of our emotions. We actually store some in the head as well. We store emotions everywhere. All of our emotions, different ones of our emotions get stored in different energy centres as we hold on to them. But we also have like these centres here at the back of the head and in the belly, where we process the emotions through all the emotions. So solar plexus and the Bindu center. So when we don't cry, when we suppress the urge to cry, whether that's happy tears or sad tears, but oftentimes we're more likely to suppress sad ones, we're internalising those tears. We're internalising the chemical composition of those tears. And I touched on this, I think, in a Self-Care Sunday video about how our water holds memory, and that we can change the structure of water by infusing emotion into it. And there's a very famous experiment of this, with water having been frozen crystals of water that had emotions projected at it, from anger and sadness to love and joy, happiness, peace. And we can see the structure of the water changes based on the emotion that we put into it. And I'm looking at that because that's where my water is. So if we think this is the case with this is why it's so fascinating that they've shown with science that our tears have a different chemical composition when there's emotion in them. That is just so cool to me. And I'm a bit of a science geek undercover, and it makes it clear to me as an emotional health practitioner, that when we hold in tears that try and not let the tears out because it's not a good time to cry, or because we don't want to be seen to be being emotional, which is usually stories that stem from childhood. That water is going back into us. It's being held on within us. So yeah, go and let's shed some tears. Go either, and I'm going to say, don't suppress the sadness. If those tears are tears that are holding the energy of something like sadness or worry or anxiety, depression, nervousness, if any of those tears, any tears are holding those emotions, don't go and try and convert them by going and watching something funny. Actually allow yourself to process tears. And you can, do some tapping while you're shedding the tears. That's really powerful to allow the energy to flow as well, and to help us feel more comfortable. And I'm just going to touch on this one as well, because this is really important. Again, lots of my audience are mums, and I know it's really common to not let your children see you cry. And I've been going to make a video about this for months, because for me, excuse me, just a little buzzy creature. Can't type it, so it's gone now. It was a wasp or a bee, a honeybee, or I think it's a wasp. Now it's here and hovering near me. It's a wasp. Not a big fan of wasps. If it stings me, I might shed a tear. Not an invitation waspy. So we nearly ate wasps at the park yesterday eating ice creams, because there was one that was hanging around our ice creams, and you're just there like licking it, and it was almost there was 4 of us, 5, can't count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, and we nearly, all 5 of us I think, nearly ate this wasp. Anyway, side note, crying in front of children. I've been going to make a video about this for a while, because I know we don't cry enough in front of our children, because we're trying to save them, I think, from seeing that we don't have our shit together all the time, or that we're weak, or that I think it's down to not wanting our children to think that we're weak, and that we don't always have our shit together, that we don't always have what it takes to not feel the emotions that we're feeling. And I do remember seeing my mum cry like twice before I was a teenager, I think, and it really shook me up, because I was like, I'd been raised, I'd been physically disciplined often up till the age of about 8, and often used the expression, what you're crying for, I'll give you something to cry for. That was a little bit thrown at me, and when I was crying because I'd been slapped, it was often not welcomed. Like, my mum had hurt me, always my mum, my dad never hit me. Crying because I've been hurt and yet I'm not allowed to cry, that was, and that would be because, now looking back, and also because of my mum, because my mum didn't want to see me cry. She didn't want to know that she'd actually made me cry. So it really shocked me the first time that I remember seeing my mum cry, and she immediately tried to hide that she'd been doing it, and it's and I think this is quite common. I know I've heard people and seen people sharing that they don't like their children seeing them cry. As a conscious mum, as a conscious awareness mum, I actively encourage you to cry in front of your children, because crying is a part of the human process. It's absolutely normal. Emotions are normal. Sadness is normal, and a natural response to sadness is shedding tears. That's in the science. I'm going to share a link that I was reading on it. But yeah, our tears are really, really a potent way of releasing emotion. They really are. So when we suppress that emotion in front of our children, we're teaching them that grown-ups have got their shit together so well we don't need to cry, and then we go and cry in secret. We're like withholding a really valuable life lesson from them. And also we withhold from them the natural response of learning to comfort somebody who's upset. And this, I'm going to say, is particularly potent for boys who are going to be in heterosexual relationships anyway, and maybe even boys who are going to be who are gay as well, going to be in gay relationships, whatever, because males have this different way of receiving tears, and that could be because it's suppressed by mothers. It could be because of the upbringing for boys particularly to not cry. There can be various reasons for this, but they have a different response to it. The males have a different response to it in that they don't like it. It kind of, and it probably is, yeah. As I speak it, I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably actually because they've been raised to not cry, be strong men, that their receptivity to it is diminished, and it makes them feel very uncomfortable, and they want to solve things, and that's not always what we need. When we're crying, we don't need the situation solved. We need to release the tears, and we need a hug, and we need to be just held in the space where we are while we sob and cry, like we missed out on as children when we were upset and we were pushed away for crying, and what you really wanted to have done was to be hugged and held. So we teach our children a really valuable lesson in having the natural response to crying is to hold someone, and it is to help and support them. It's your child crying in pain anyway, is to hold them and support them while they cry. And when we teach that, when we allow ourselves to have the space to just cry in front of them, we give them the opportunity to learn how to do that. And seriously, a hug from your child while you're crying is one of the most blessed things that you can ever have, because it comes from this deep place of empathy and compassion and love, and not from a conditioned response of like, oh, someone's crying, do I need to give them a hug, do I need to what do I do, or I need to try and stop them. And they'll actually encourage you to cry. They will actually, they see it, as long as they've not been raised to suppress, they see it as just this emotional release when they're really little. Like I do remember crying with at least one of my girls when they were very young, them finding me crying, and it just being the most beautiful way to be held. And that is genuinely what most of us want. If we're crying with sadness, or we're crying with worry, or any sort of upset, any sort of dense emotion, that's all we want. And they just give that, they just freely give that. So as strange as it may seem to jump on a Motivation Monday post and say, have a good cry, because the other thing, and then once we've shed and released these, we can actually bring ourselves with clarity to be motivated to do something or support ourselves in something that made us cry in the first place. And that's why it's motivation. because it actually frees up the body of the liquid that it's holding on to, that holds and stores the energy of the dense emotion that we're feeling. So there we go. And don't forget that even if you are crying happy tears, that's also releasing the emotion, because storing any emotion ain't good for us. If we're holding on to too much joy and too much happiness, that's also not very good for us, because we're not expressing it, we're not feeling it, and we're not being it. And that then internalizes it, and it makes our bodies go into the state of our bodies going to the state of thinking there's something wrong. Our nervous system thinks there's something wrong because we're storing and we're holding and clenching the emotion, even if it's a good feeling emotion. And that's then why we start to suppress even our happiness, our joy, our excitement, our calm, peace, and why we then realise, at 40, that we don't know how to be happy. We can't remember when we were last happy, because the body's numbed us to it. The body's numbed to feeling those better feeling emotions. So if you are really, really happy about something, if you are watching a funny movie and laughing hysterically and tears are streaming down your face, or you're with a friend who's done something silly and you're laughing, or you're hearing a funny story, or they're telling a funny story and they're laughing and the tears are streaming down their face, let them cry, because it's the best thing that you can do to release your emotions. So there we go, Motivation Monday. Have a good cry, shed some tears. You'll feel much better. You'll either get clarity on whatever it is that you're feeling dense and down about, or you'll release the emotion to calm down when you are in a hysterical state of laughter, joy and excitement. Let me know what you think. I'll see you again soon. Bye.